Great. I think we will go ahead and start. So good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to the session on Building Africa's Future, Empowering Actuarial Excellence, which is hosted by the African Actuarial Development Academy, also known as AADA, with support from the International Actuarial Association, the Actuarial Academy of East Africa, and Africa. My name is Yvonne Palm. I'm one of the co-founders of AADA, and we're extremely excited for today's activities. So today we have a fireside chat with the group MD and CEO of Africa, Dr. Corneille Karekezi, a familiar face and well-respected and acclaimed leader in the African insurance space. So we'll hear more about his career in his talk. He'll be interviewed by Marjorie Ngwenya, a person that I describe as the most famous actuary in Africa, as she's been going ahead and trailblazing for all of us, hitting quite a few firsts when she became the president of the IFOA in 2017 while she was based in Africa, and she continues to trailblaze in much of her career. We'll start with a welcome and introduction from Charles Cowling, the current president of the IAA. This will be immediately followed by the fireside chat and then a question and answer session. So please do get your questions ready for Dr. Karekezi and the rest of the team. And towards the end, we'll have a brief overview of AADA from Yeside Kazim, who's another co-founder of the Academy. And finally, the event will be concluded with a call to action by Mukami Njeru, who's the third co-founder of AADA. So this session is pegged to be an exciting and engaging event. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Charles.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. And it's a great pleasure to be with you here today. As Yvonne said, I am currently the president of the International Actuarial Association, and it's my great pleasure to be giving a brief introduction to what I'm sure is going to be a really interesting session here today. For those of you who are not familiar with the International Actuarial Association, we are an association of associations. So our members are other member associations in other countries, whether it is some of the larger well-established associations like the IFOA in the UK, or some of the developing associations from around the world. We all come together as part of the IAA to look to achieve a number of objectives that individual associations would struggle to achieve on their own. And those objectives are threefold. We are looking to promote and assist in the development of the actuarial profession. And that means a mixture of assisting with professionalism, professional standards, development of standards around the world. It means helping with education and the education of actuaries around the world. And it means also helping those actuaries and associations who are in countries where the profession is still young and still developing, that we can share the resources of the wider global actuarial profession. So that's our first key objective, and as you will tell from my comments, AADA is one of our things that we are very happy to support in exactly meeting that objective. I'll say a few more words about that in just a minute. But our other two objectives are around sharing actuarial expertise, sharing actuarial knowledge, sharing experience and technical developments in actuarial science, so that what is developed in one country can be used by other countries. And this isn't just around helping developing associations. It can be for very well-established associations. So, for example, the IFOA in the UK has learnt a lot from what South Africa has been doing in the area of banking, and helping to learn from South Africa, both in terms of expertise and development of actuarial exams, has been really helpful for the IFOA. So this is something where we all learn from sharing developments that are going on around the world. And if I just mention two of our priorities at the moment, one being climate change and the other one being AI, these are very much global topics that we all learn and benefit from sharing knowledge and experience globally. And then our final area of activity that is a sort of key objective for the IAA is engaging supranational organizations. So that's organizations like the OECD, like the WHO, the United Nations, the accounting standards bodies, and others who need to engage with actuaries to help them develop their own work, as well as understanding what actuaries can bring to assist in some of the problems that they're trying to solve. So a good example is we will be represented at COP29, and we are working in a number of areas to showcase what it is that actuaries can bring to help solve some of society's big challenges and problems. So that brings me back to the AADA initiative, and I'm delighted that this is something that we at the International Actuarial Association are supporting. It's the introduction of an academy in Africa to help in the education of actuaries in Africa, something that is both core to the objectives of the IAA, and something that I personally and the IAA generally are very happy to see emerge and to support. So I'll leave it to others to talk more specifically about exactly what the AADA is doing and how it's doing it, but their policy and objectives around building a platform to develop the profession across Africa is something that I'm excited about. There is a growing financial services industry in Africa, and it needs actuarial talent. Actuaries play a crucial role in understanding risk and doing the analytical work necessary to sustain the growth of the financial services industry. So helping to develop the professionals that will play a key role in that, both in terms of the flow of new actuaries, graduates, and the initial education of actuaries, but also later on in terms of continuing development of actuaries and building on actuarial skills is something that is important in all of our lives and careers. And it's great to see that AADA is looking to do that through professional development, through creating education plans, through tutorials and mentorship. All of these things are a core part of both what is necessary to create a well-functioning and established career, but also what's needed from an individual perspective to see your career blossom and flourish. And all of this very much supports the goals of the IAA to support the development of the actuarial profession. So I was delighted to receive the invitation to say a few comments ahead of what I'm sure is going to be a really interesting fireside chat. I wanted to reiterate that I see this as a really important and exciting development in Africa. And I'm very pleased that at the IAA, we are able to lend it our support. And we wish them well in the as they look to build on the very firm foundations that they've now established. So I think at that point, I shall hand back to you, Yvonne, to introduce the speakers for the next session. But I'm very much looking forward to hearing what they have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charles. We are going to go straight on to the fireside chat because we're very excited to hear about them, and you'll hear more about Dr. Karekezi's background during that chat. And we all know Marjorie, I think, like I said, most famous actuary in Africa and also a well-accomplished author. So please do get her book as well. So I'll hand it over to Marjorie and Dr. Karekezi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Dr. Karekezi, it really is a pleasure to share this platform with you. You've built an impressive career in the insurance and reinsurance industries. Where did you begin your career? And could you share your path that brought you to the role of Group MD or CEO of Africa Re? Oh, I think you're muted there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I would like sincerely to appreciate this invitation from Yvonne and all her team behind this. Yeah, my career started as many African kids. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do after high school. I applied, I was in Burundi, where my family was a refugee. So I didn't have many options. So I applied for things like IT and so on. I ended up in business administration. When you finish, you just look into the newspapers and see if there are a vacancy announcement here and there. There was one for insurance. Then in the then leader insurance company called Sokabu in Burundi. Then I applied for a job of an accountant. So that time when I received it, then the university called me to ask me if I could go and be an assistant professor and continue the career of being a teacher and professor in university. So I had to choose between the two. Then I decided to go into insurance. I didn't know what is insurance. As you know, the penetration is low, the awareness is low. Insurance is limited to motor insurance only in many villages and many cities and many in our population. So I started in accounting, which I think was a very good way to start, because you come to understand all the transactions, all the departments through the financial transactions and accounting. Then I had a very big opportunity of participating in the early computerization or digitalization, if I may say it, of the operations in those years around 92, 93. That is 30 years ago. So it's a long time. Some of the participants in this webinar may not have been born that time. So they can imagine that we are using spreadsheets and so on. IT was still new. Then when you are an accountant, you have a business analyst mind, and you're implementing the existing procedure, which are manual. So you come to learn the nitty-gritty of any operation, whether it is insurance or banking or whatever. So then another big opportunity was to work as well in as a commercial director in Rwanda. That is around 95 in an insurance company. So then I worked in developing products, in introducing new products, and so on, issues of competition. Later, I moved to leadership as a deputy CEO of an insurance company. Later, I became a CEO of a company in Rwanda called Sonarwa. That was the lead at that time. But when I was in Burundi, I also worked as a reinsurance manager of that company. So I had a connection with the reinsurance, which brought me at one time to be in Africa Re as the deputy MD and then as Africa CEO. So I may say that really it was by coincidence that I landed in insurance and reinsurance. And yeah, that's in brief my career so far. Thank you.
Thank you. A very interesting path that you've taken there. Could you share with us the highlights of your leadership of Africa Re to date?
Yeah, I think that yeah, it's up to others to judge, but I'll give you a few ideas and things according to me, things we have achieved, not only me, but with all my colleagues who are working for Africa Re. I think that when I became CEO in 2011, there were two major projects or possibilities to grow and also to become more efficient. One was the IT, which the systems we had were a bit old, more than 20 years. So there was a big opportunity to change things. Number two, it was growing in new markets in Africa, especially where we had a market share around 10% or 9%. And there were many countries we were not very much present. We'll mention Ethiopia, where we opened an office sometimes in 2011, Khartoum, and Zimbabwe, and so on. I think there were some structural emerging issues because at that time South Africa was the leading component of the leading, it has a higher weight in our portfolio, up to 50%. And that time there were huge devaluation of the rand, for example, which was affecting our financials because we report in US dollars. So there was a diversification on the continent, so increasing other market weight in our top line. As you know, insurance is about diversification and reinsurance as well. So we have achieved a very strong diversification by all means in Africa and outside Africa. As we speak, international business, which was around 5% that time, is now around 27%. We opened offices in Brazil, in Dubai as we speak, and we are growing fast in countries in India and China, Israel, and other markets. So this has allowed us to be more resilient. And of course, in IT, we have introduced many initiatives. I think there is no one department of Africa Re which is not digitalized inside of its operations. And today in Africa Re, I can say that we are probably one of the best in the world in terms of efficiency. If you take the size of the premium income divided by the number of staff, in the latest statistics I had discussing with other CEO, it could be maybe number 2 or number 1 or number 3 in the world today. in that metric of efficiency. So I think the other project was development of people. That's why we are even here, developing Africans, developing our own staff. We have opened many doors in terms of pushing, for example, in Africa, anything you want to study, which is professional, it's free of charge, and it is encouraged. As today, we have even moved another step higher. Every Thursday afternoon, it's a learning afternoon in Africa every week. So there are many subjects which are discussed. We call it knowledge sharing afternoon, Thursday, across the corporation. So this is an indication of our strong commitment to grow our people in terms of their knowledge, their information, and we are in a knowledge-based industry. I think that's the only thing we can do, which is the basis of all our successes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. It sounds like great achievements and world domination in the making. For those not familiar with Africa Re, how has your organization contributed to building resilience and capacity in Africa's insurance markets?
Yeah, when Africa Re was created in 1976, there was no Pan-African reinsurer. We had already national reinsurance companies like the one in Morocco, SCR, the one in Ghana, the one in Kenya, for example, probably a couple of others, including Egypt Re and Nigeria Re. Some of them are no longer, as we speak. They have disappeared. Probably they didn't have good actuaries. I don't know. We are going to discuss that. And so Africa Re has contributed and still contributes in a big way. I will say that as we speak today, capacity for reinsurance on the continent is provided at 30% by Africa Re among 43 reinsurance companies registered on the continent. This is something very important. And in the years 80s and 90s, we saw the withdrawal of major international reinsurance companies. The bigger one, the top 5, if you want, they were withdrawing from smaller markets, which are difficult to serve on the continent. And there were various issues of competence in the seeding companies. There were issues of collecting premium. There were issues of transferring premium, paying premium in US dollars overseas and so on. So Africa Re stepped in, increased its number of regional offices. Wherever we have regional offices or contact offices, we accept payment in US dollars. And we brought closer to more than 1,000 insurance companies, among which most are very small in terms of size, difficult to serve, and difficult to access. And we brought to them a capacity which is strong in terms of rating. We brought to them partnership in developing new products, partnership in training people, and I think partnership also in advocating for insurance awareness on the continent. I think insurance is probably one of the least financial sector component, which is not well known, both by the public authorities, by the ministries of finance, and also by the general public. So there is a role of advocacy which we have done because of the access to insurance markets easily at one time, and also because of Africa Re traditionally has had in its board of directors insurance regulators from many insurance markets. So we were like a platform where people can discuss, exchange ideas, and exchange experiences and so on. We think that we have been that cement bringing together insurance market, but we have been also at the forefront of many initiatives like the African Reinsurance Forum, which took place last week in Cairo at the 20th as a 20th edition. We have been appointed manager of African insurance pools and so on. I think we are best placed as we speak, whenever there will be partnership of the African countries and markets, which are very much fragmented in the future, that Africa will be one of the best entity to manage such kind of regional pools, for example, if they come to be supported by the African Free Continental Trade Area, which is under discussion. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Great work there from your organization. Moving on to the topic of capacity building, there is an undersupply of qualified actuaries across Africa. What is your perspective on why this shortage exists?
So I think there are many reasons. First of all, it's not only the actuaries. Many other job families in the insurance sector. For example, there is a shortage of talent, shortage of competencies. You can't believe that as we speak, we have more than three vacancy announcements which cannot be filled. Financial underwriters, trade and credit underwriters, aviation underwriters, and so on. So it is, I think one major reason is because we don't train. Finish. Stop. It's because we don't train. It's not because there are, of course, actuaries are very, it's a job which is very much requires a lot of expertise, and it is not a job. It's not a competence which we train ourselves. You know, we can train our accountant. We can train our commercial people. We can train our underwriters. We can even train them together with the other institutions like international insurers. We can train many other people, but individually as insurance sector players, we can't train our own actuaries internally. So it is outsourced. Secondly, there is no such kind of training institutions on the continent, at least in many markets, which are available. Thirdly, their training seems to take longer, and there is even a perception that it's a very difficult field to learn. I don't know why. Is it because there is a lot of mathematics, and mathematics is not taught on the continent, because there are other sectors, you know, the STEMs or the sciences, including mathematics, are also undersupplied on the continent. So I think that it is because we don't really put enough effort in it. Another main reason is lack of professionalism on the part of maybe 70% of insurance companies, which are around 1,400 on the continent. So there is a lack of professionalism in terms of the way they calculate their pricing, they calculate their reserving, they develop their product, and so on. But when I say lack of professionalism, it's not within one insurance company. It's within the entire ecosystem of insurance, from the regulator, who is supposed to request certain processes, certain documentation, certain things under his regulation. So it is really an ecosystem whereby some companies can operate without an actuary, and they think that it's all okay, and they continue until maybe they have this experience problems. But even if they don't experience problems, they don't see what they are losing as opportunity having such kind of competencies. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a mixed bag of reasons why. What stands out to me is the perception of the profession and the work that we could be doing to market it differently. What do you believe would be different if we had sufficient actuarial talent on the African continent?
Okay, a lot of things will be really different. Number one, actuaries, let's see where our staff are coming from. When I was in the insurance sector, we used to think, okay, we used to think that claims managers should come from legal perspective, because there are litigations, there are disputes between the victims, the clients, and the insurance company. We used to think that underwriters would come from this is because there are no, in some markets, until now, there are no strong faculty or stream of academic field in insurance. Sometimes they're at the regional level. For example, in the Francophone countries, you have one regional training institution based in Cameroon, and some advanced market, they have their own institutes. But in reality, people who are coming to the insurance sector, they are coming from different background. And I think that though we have tried, including myself, we have tried to understand the risk, to understand the insurance sector, actuaries may bring a bigger basis of understanding what we do, and they can do a lot, including, I estimate that an underwriter who has an actuarial background is the best underwriter one can have, because of the way he perceives risk, the way he calculates risk, the way he explains it, better than someone who may be just repeating some rehearsed statement, which we do when we are going to sell. Because I've been selling, for example, different products. Now, that said, there are core jobs, core functions which are done by actuaries. In fact, when the regulators want to improve things like IFRS 17, or they want to increase things like a transparency of financial statement, which are reported in the market, you will find that on the other side, in the majority of insurance companies on the continent, they don't have those skills to respond to the requests of the regulator. And not only they don't have skills internally, but within the insurance market, they don't have enough consultant, for example. If only we could have even consulting companies in a good supply in markets, we can achieve whatever intention, for example, from reforming the insurance sector. You know, when you say risk-based capitalization, okay, it's good. We have to do that, all of us on the continent, one by one. But doing it's not possible without the role of actuaries. So lastly, I think I will now touch on agriculture, for example, insurance. So this is something, together with climate and climate change and so on, this is something very important for government and for all of us as Africa, in terms of assisting farmers on the continent, who are the biggest productive force on the continent. So they don't have insurance, and you will find that insurance companies are not interested or don't have appetite to write those businesses. Mainly what they say that they don't have the experience, they don't understand, they are not sure if they write such kind of businesses, they are going to make money, and so on. So one of the role which the people who can help in alleviating their fears, in guiding their actions and their thinking are also actuaries. So a lot of things can be better if we had enough of actuarial talent on the continent.
Wonderful, thank you. The African Actuarial Development Academy aims to address some of the challenges that we've discussed about developing actuarial expertise. What do you see as the role that the AADA needs to play in empowering Africa's financial services sector?
Good. So AADA, I think that they are going to say themselves what they intend to do, but when they approached me to explain their ambition, I welcome that idea. First, because I have seen on the African continent a lot of efforts which were aiming to develop actuarial competencies on the continent, which will not go to the end of what they intended to do. But also, there is a huge gap. Anyone is welcome to come and fill that gap to develop the knowledge, the capacity. So AADA is going to play a very important role because it's an initiative which is coming from the professionals. Many other initiatives we tried were coming from institutions like regional institutions or continental institutions, sometimes national institutions, because we recognize the need. But I think based on the experience of effectively those who have become the examples of successful career in that are the one who really can help the younger ones who are going to follow in terms of their development. So the role is really critical, filling the gap, providing those talents, coaching them, but also they can also have a say in many regulatory initiatives and reforms which are which are implemented in various markets. Now, publication and research on the realities of Africa. I was recently impressed by one thinking, which was saying that insurance, when it was introduced on the continent in 60s, 70s, was targeting only those businesses which were linked to the metropole, to the colonial powers. It has never been introduced in Africa to reach the masses, to reach the different needs in terms of risk management. So I think that there is a huge role here of research and discovering how we can do slightly different to adapt whatever is done in other markets to the realities of Africa. So AADA has a lot of things to contribute. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Africa has played an important role in growing actuarial talent on the continent. Which contributions make you the proudest?
Great. Number one, I would say that we didn't do a lot. We didn't do a lot compared to the gap I've said. We really tried to to participate in different initiatives at national levels in markets where they had called for partnership. The main role we have played is financing those initiatives, and at continental level, as well at the African Insurance Organization level, we have supported various initiatives. But as I said, there is a lot to do because Africa alone needs more actuarial people. We need more actuarial people. We don't have enough compared to our peers at in the developed advanced markets. So what we have put in place, and this was triggered by the introduction of IFRS 17 recently, we decided to put in place a stream of initiatives aiming at recruiting very young students and professionals to prepare the future of this field of knowledge on the continent. So we created something called the Young Actuarial Professional Program, where we will recruit young talent and accompany them at least for 2 years before they go back in the different markets. And we think that will be a practical contribution to developing those talents. Otherwise, we open our doors in terms of supporting initiatives because we, as a continental organization, it's quite difficult to impact each and every of the more than 54 markets on the continent. So we have to have an approach which is broad, which is AADA. So we are going to support AADA in terms of the financing and also in terms of reflecting together what we can do to push this agenda. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I know that you've been very instrumental in supporting the AADA and being the host and creating a significant donation to the endowment fund as well, for which we are all grateful. Just a notice to participants, if you do want to ask questions, please type them into the Q&A area of Zoom, and we will take those after this chat. Dr. Karekezi, how can Africa Re and others further collaborate with institutions like AADA to ensure a steady pipeline of actuaries that meet the needs of the African insurance and reinsurance sectors?
I think if I look behind why we have discussed already some reasons why we don't have enough actuaries on the continent. So I think it's the approach. We are still really reflecting and try to find the best approach to accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
So to accelerate this. So reflecting together is important, and sharing experience is important, and communication, and also organizing all the initiatives on the continent. It's very important that we achieve this, because I can see in the future actuaries performing their consulting role, performing their core role of actuarial services in a way which is shared on the continent. With technology, with the movement of people, there is a need that we create a pipeline of actuaries who can serve different markets. And this will be one of the way we can share those competencies. There are many initiatives. For example, we are working on an initiative with some consulting company to create a software which can help smaller insurance, life insurance companies to implement IFRS 17. So this is, for example, an area we can work with AADA to accelerate access to competencies which can be shared by many companies, because the day each company on the continent will have an actuary, it's a bit too far at the moment. So we have to find ways which are innovative, which are cost effective, because the issue of cost is also a major one in different markets, to increase the access of those services to those who are still growing their talents until they get them. So I think it's a long, I must say it's a long journey, but it's feasible and it's worth taking it together with the AADA and others. Thank you.
Thank you. That's inspirational, talking about democratizing access to the profession and allowing the smaller organizations to benefit as well. I know Renata typed into the chat some other factors to consider, such as regulators writing into law that actuaries should occupy certain roles in the insurance regulations, and also the salaries that may not correspond with the expectations of future and present actuarial professionals, which leads me to my next question around brain drain. It's a particular challenge on the continent. What could be done to address it?
That is a very difficult question, both for medical doctors, IT experts, pilots of aircraft. It seems that we are losing a lot. We are losing a lot, and why we are the one who are needing a lot. I think that particularly for actuaries, it's you have mentioned it in your recent comment, is to give them more visibility in the insurance sector, insurance companies, so that they can achieve career growth beyond the technical core job of actuaries, and maybe access those positions which are well paid. Otherwise, regulators can also push for kind of regulation in terms of bringing together, for example, consulting firms to be created on the continent at national level and regional level. I remember at one time, many years back, and if you wanted to develop, for example, product concept note, you needed an actuary. And in the region of East Africa, there was one called Hyman's Robertson. I don't know if it still exists. So the people would travel from Nairobi to Kigali and come. It was expensive. It was at that time, internet was not so much developed so that we can have even discussions like this. And so I think that leveraging on technology, there is a possibility of leapfrogging and overcoming difficulties and issues we have. So there is a lot to do. There is a lot to do. Now, no one can stop the brain drain when there are political issues or socio-economic issues in countries where purchasing power is dropping beyond what one can imagine. So if you are a young professional and you are qualified, you are being trained by your company, and you have an inflation of 36% per year, you are losing your purchasing power, you are raising your children, they are young, and so on. So Europe, Canada, and the other places, it's very appealing, and it's powerful attraction. There is really not much one can do other than developing our insurance sector to be successful and be able to keep its talent. Otherwise, there are issues really at macroeconomic level, social level, which are difficult to control in this issue of keeping our brains in Africa.
Thank you. Very helpful. And you've touched on technology. It's reshaping the way that actuaries work. How do you believe that the actuarial profession can remain relevant in Africa with that backdrop?
So I'm not an expert, but I believe that in terms of actuaries and technology, there must be some new competence which are coming. I think you should tell us more in this. And these new competencies which are between actuaries and artificial intelligence and issues of data lake, issues of analytics, predictive analysis, and so on. I think that what actuaries can help in this is probably developing some approaches of data curation, data preparation, so that the role of actuaries may be even easier or faster than what it was. So take an example, an existing company somewhere like Africa Re or any other on the continent. It has internally a lot of data, especially if it has been in the market for some years. From its own portfolio, it's an immense mine of knowledge in terms of understanding risk. So, but that mine is there. It doesn't yield any result, any insight. I think that actuaries using technology, helping our companies to prepare themselves to what is believed to be a tectonic change in terms of using data, applying them to develop anything you want, whether it is product, pricing, reserving, reporting, and so on. I think the actuarial are, because they understand better data, they manipulate data, they will be probably the first to be developing even those softwares which we need together with the other people in the IT technology. So I think that their role will be core, and probably AADA will be leading in terms of research, in terms of publication in this area, which is very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely, lots of opportunities to contribute there. In closing, Dr. Karekezi, you've had a long and successful career during which I'm sure you've learned some valuable life and professional lessons. What advice would you give to young professionals or students aspiring to pursue careers in actuarial science and in risk management in Africa?
Okay, wow. So lessons or advices. First of all, it's believing that there is no one in the world who can beat you. no one in the world, whether he's in Norway or in South Africa, in Australia or in California or in Singapore, you have today possibility, and it has been demonstrated that you can be the best in what you do. And this is a very, by itself, it is a lifelong journey and a successful way of seeing things as a professional. Having said that, how do you achieve this? The old traditional recipe of working hard, being passionate in what you do, and collaborating with others. So working hard, it's unfortunately a number of hours you put in this. It's a number of hours you put in this, whether it is reading, whether it is passing exams, whether it is whatever it is. Unfortunately, that is it. There's no other way to do it. So that's the old traditional recipe: working hard, collaborating with others, being passionate, and apply one of my own approaches to things is this. Within 4 years, I have to master everything possible in my job and be the best, not only in the company you're working in, but even in the region. So give yourself 4 years. For example, if you are appointed, I don't know, a risk management assistant, you are young, you are appointed a staff in the risk management department, or a staff in the reserving department, or the staff in the financial department as an assistant to the finance director in terms of working on IFRS 17, whatever, or pricing and so on, or in life. So give yourself 4 years that you'll be teaching others. And it's a very powerful way. When you can teach others, you will grow faster, and the sky will be the limit for you. Thank you.
Wonderful. You speak my language indeed. Self-belief, a very important principle, as well as applying yourself, so working hard and mastering what is in front of you so that you can teach it to others. Thank you for those wonderful lessons, Dr. Karekezi. That is the end of our our fireside chat, rather, and we're going into our Q&A session. So to everyone, please type your questions into the Q&A. And I'm going to start with Renata's question, which says that some insurance supervisors say that in a Solvency I environment, so presumably a non-risk-based capital environment, you don't need actuaries. What is your opinion? She says that actuarial professionals could still be beneficial for companies in other areas such as underwriting, finance, and so
on. So it is true. I think I have alluded to that lack of professionalism. We are in an industry which is in risk management, and we have in the reinsurance sector, at least, an example which is powerful of reinsurance companies which have disappeared. I can name them because they are known. It's not a secret. I can name Best Re, which was the second biggest reinsurance company in EMEA, in Africa and Middle East, and others. So I believe that apart the issue of governance, which may have created some problems. Corporate governance, probably and certainly the lack of competence in matters related to actuarial competencies have a big share of those failures. So this is some years back in companies or in environment where one would think that you don't need an actuary. I will give you a personal example. Around 2000, between 2000 and 2004, we developed a new product, which was a life product. We were successful to sell it through more than 500 individual agents. We grew that business. It was a term life cover targeting those who were really not insured before, because before only those who works in the formal successful companies like banks would have like a group life and so on. So we developed so much. That product was developed together with the actuaries in Kenya Re, and we hit the rock at one time. We discovered that our pricing was wrong. We could not understand the risk based on the prevalence of AIDS that time. So after 4 years of successful growth in terms of top line, we had to go back in the market with a lot of costs, because we have to pay the agent to go back and convince, for example, all the insured that it's better for them to, because we cannot sustain. So we cannot sustain giving them that cover, annual cover. We encourage them to change, to transform it into a capitalization product. So, for example, that one, there has been a cost, huge cost, not only reputational cost, but there were also real costs in terms of financing. That is just one example, but I'm sure that all the people on this call may have many anecdotes of where actuarial competencies was needed. It's not only in capital management, but because risk-based capitalization is only capital management and regulatory driven, because before that we had the capital, we had minimum capital, but all these are linked. You can't really say that we are better off without having actuarial competencies in companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for providing that context. We have a question from an anonymous contributor saying that in a bid to encourage the growth of actuaries, some companies have an actuarial study policy which enhances the actuarial qualification journey by providing study resources and compensation for exam passes. As a leader in the African reinsurance market, what does the actuarial study policy for Africa Re look like? And feel free to keep it very high level.
Great. First of all, a study policy of actuaries in companies like Africa Re and probably others have created a kind of competition or jealousy, because other competencies are feeling that actuaries are I don't know, they're egoist. They want them to be considered separately better than others, because, as I said, we have so many other competencies in our companies and the continent, which are in a very high need. So now, coming to actuaries, so we have adopted industry best practices. especially in South Africa, where we have a subsidiary. So we have implemented exactly what is in the market, including paying for them, including allowing them some leave, especially when they are closer to their exams, and also allowing them to have free days. I think every Friday, if I'm not mistaken, they can go and study and so on. So, but Africa because we are a reinsurance company, and the reinsurance company, by its nature, doesn't use so many. We don't have a very huge staff establishment in terms of number of employees. So we are actually among the people who should have the best actuaries on the continent, because we can recruit them from the insurance market, where they have been trained and their career is already developed. So that's why we have introduced the young actuarial professional programs to also contribute in developing the younger ones, who most of the time they are with insurance companies in the primary sector. So there are all the best practices which we adopt from, and most of them are developed by industries and markets where we are operating.
Thank you very much. Another question from John Jiru at the Actuarial Academy of East Africa. How can companies seek to advance what Africa is doing, so enhancing and expanding actuarial capacity in Africa, help when they are not resource rich?
All right. So we are putting a lot of expectation on this initiative of AADA, that coming 5 years, probably 10 years, we expect it to be the most important platform of expertise, training, information, communication, knowledge sharing, research, publication, and who knows, even providing services in the future to all our industry. So what companies should be doing to support this is to join our effort to create, if we can achieve, for example, what we have achieved in the YIPP, which is the Young Insurance Professional Programs, which we introduced some 8 years ago, where we train 1,000 students, or 1,000 insurance professional, targeting the younger ones who are below 28 years old and 2 years of a job experience. We have trained kind of 6,000 people in different insurance companies around, including insurance regulatory authorities. So I was amazed when I met one CEO in Oran in Algeria 2 years ago, who came to see me and said, Mr. Karekezi, I want to meet you. I thought that it was for business, and I went to see him. It was during the GAIF, General Arab Insurance Forum. And I met him with the 2 very young ladies, Algerian. And he said, I want to thank you for what you are doing in training young people, because these 2 young ladies have been transformed. We saw them really transformed in the job, literally. I said, what did we do? He said, they were among your trainees in YIPP. So this is the kind of impact we want to see in the future in each company, when insurance CEOs, insurance company CEOs, will be saying the same, and saying that you have helped us. We have seen our young actuaries transformed. whether they are at the fellowship level, associateship level, or still student, they can still impact their companies in terms of operations, in terms of their development. So this is what we want the insurance sector on the continent to be contributing to, working together with the African and AADA. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Mayo Okulate asking, is there a place for actuaries who trained and work in Western economies and perhaps are fed up of doing work that has limited impact? How transferable and relevant is experience gained abroad to be able to translate into day-to-day challenges of work on the continent? For someone thinking about making impact in the growth of the actuarial market in Africa, but is unsure of where to start and whether their skill set is valued, what advice do you have for these people? Any ideas of key risks and challenges?
First of all, maybe AADA also can do that job as well. How many are they? If you are somewhere, please send me your CV. I'll send it to Yvonne or to other people here. We can really direct you. And if that kind of research can be undertaken to understand the level of expectations of those Africans in the diaspora who want to come on the continent, what do they expect? But I can tell you, in my view, first of all, it depends on the level of your career development. You may be at the very highest level, for example, whereby where in Africa, maybe you may not get what you are expecting in terms of employment benefit. But for those who are still at the beginning of their career, I think I encourage them seriously to come and participate in this journey of developing the competencies on the continent. But this is also another kind of information and research AADA can do, how to connect talent in terms of actuaries. For example, if we know that you are like 1,000, let's say, if you are 1,000 who want to come on the continent, it is something which we can really organize the matching. I forget how they call it. I know one company which is called AfriCsearch, which organizes in Paris. I forget how they call that event, where they bring employers and people in the diaspora who have certain specific competencies, high-level competencies, to meet and discuss. Sometimes it's a matter of communication, sharing information, and knowing each other, what are the needs and the expectations. So this can be shared with them, including regulators, for example. And now that we are talking about IFRS 17, which is which consumes a lot of actuarial competencies, I believe that there is really an opportunity for creating a space where the providers of those competencies and those who are requesting them can meet reasonably, confidentially, and in a better way to find how to cooperate and move forward.
Thank you. Perhaps just a related question, which says, what can be done or is being done to encourage African actuaries overseas who are willing to support the continent without necessarily moving back? Is there a way to do that from wherever they are currently?
I don't know exactly. First of all, for Africa, whenever we have a vacancy announcement, there is an opportunity to recruit. So we recruit worldwide. So those who are coming from outside Africa have even a certain age, because we believe or they are perceived to be bringing advanced knowledge and probably even advanced work behavior and attitude and so on, that the perception which is in the continent. So I think that there is probably a lot which can be done in this. So we recruit worldwide, number one, and I don't know how, for example, a team of actuaries can, based in outside the market, can provide services other than the training, other than. But if you are talking about services which are which are paid, you know, I don't know if it's easily done, but unless that they come and open consulting firms, actuarial services firm on the continent, I think that way they can contribute in providing those services remotely. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. One on IFRS 17 from Francis Okoth. From a reinsurance perspective, what would you say are the main challenges insurance companies in Africa have encountered in implementing IFRS 17?
First of all, it's there's no regulatory push for that. That is another issue of competence of regulators. Number two, it is awareness. So when we say awareness, you can't believe, and I have said this last week as well, you can't believe how incompetent, meaning that low level of knowledge compared to what it should be. Incompetence in some of regulatory authorities. That's why not only we are training young professionals, we are training middle managers. We have launched at the AIO Reinsurance Forum last week in Cairo, a training leadership in insurance, which has many components. Even CEOs of insurance companies themselves, they are not well prepared in their biggest part. They are of course very competent. In fact, Africa has everything. The best like the CEO of Discovery and the founder of Discovery, what he has done in 25 years, it's beyond what you can imagine. That's why he has been indicted in the Hall of Fame by the Insurance Institute Society, where I am a member of the executive committee. That was done last year in Singapore. So we have the best, but we have the worst probably. we have the worst probably, especially, as I say, in the bottom of the 1,400 insurance companies. You have the worst. People are coming in insurance without training, without competence, and they will be CEOs of insurance companies, and so on. Then you have board of directors on the continent. This is another training which we are working together with the College of Insurance of Kenya to train. Personally, I've participated in some training at a personal level of friends creating insurance companies who will call and say, Mr. Karekezi, come and help us, give us at least 2 days of your time and train our directors. I want them to understand the insurance industry and so on and so on. You wonder where to start. Even reading the financial statement of an insurance company, it's something very valuable to the thousand of board directors in insurance companies. So it's the ecosystem. It's the ecosystem, but we have to be addressing those lack of awareness, lack of competencies in different bodies of our industry. So that's what we can do, in my view. It's regulators, CEOs, board directors, so that they can understand the need for this. But regulators have a major role. Regulators have a major role because they know what they have to do. Because take this, a regulator in Africa is a member of the International Association of Regulators. They meet in a certain place. I don't know if it's in Switzerland and so on. There are things which they have to introduce to develop their market. If it's IFRS, for example, you can't be an IFRS compliant company or industry without those skills, those competencies. Now, how do we push for them? Because if you don't push to develop them, then we'll not be there. So I think regulators, number one, and others will follow.
Thank you, very helpful. I'm going to wrap up the Q&A, but there are a couple of questions unanswered. I've been asked whether I think there's any argument to having an African actuarial exam body. Do we think that might improve the supply of actuaries on the continent? I would say it certainly can't help. It can't hurt, sorry. The trouble is establishing credibility in relation to the established players in this market. I would rather see a unified actuarial examination body that makes everything consistent across the globe, which is maybe too aspirational. But if people are willing to try, I would be excited to follow that journey. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to take one more question. We've got Joseph Kablan saying, based on your experience, what lessons should African insurance companies adopt from the West or East, and which ones should they avoid?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. Again, can you repeat again the question?
What lessons should African insurance companies adopt from the West or East, and which ones should they avoid?
West or East?
So the Western countries or Eastern countries in the Orient, internationally,
right.
so to speak.
Internationally, okay. So in terms of actuarial services or development,
It just says African insurance
amazing.
companies, so
African
anything relating
insurance.
to insurance.
Yeah, now it's a complicated question. So they have, first of all, to look at their needs. As I said, as African, we have our peculiar issues. One, it's low income people or businesses. It is the sector of informal sector, how to provide services, insurance services to the informal sector and to low income. I think that is going forward something extremely important. Again, participated in a national insurance strategy recently of a country where I challenged people who were in that at the level of many ministers that how can we prepare the future of our own people, even those who are working in our homes, domestic. You know, in Africa, we have so many people working without a contract, working without any protection. And the young population we have in Africa, just in 30 years, there will be too many without any protection. So do we want to be a status quo people, to quote the president of Rwanda? The status quo people is to remain as we are, as we have been, and we will have floods in many of our countries, and millions are displaced and nothing is done, and we don't learn any lesson. We have a lot to learn from countries. Take France with the last week floods, where immediately they have the data, they know that insurance will be increased by I think there is a contribution at any property insurance which goes to a NatCat, natural catastrophe funds. It will be increased by 20% this year. So I think all those things are done with the actuaries transparently, so that that solidarity at the national level can work. So there are many things each country can learn from at country level, at regulation level, and also in terms of insurance penetration. Since we agree that insurance penetration it's a priority to build resilience and also to create mobilization of long-term financing for our economies. So all those things which have been achieved in different ways, we can learn the lessons and implement to solve our own problems, which we know and which are mounting, unfortunately, because of the current risks coming from the climate change and also growing population. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive answer. I am now going to hand back to the AADA. I believe I'm handing over to Yeside. Thank you so much, Dr. Karekezi.
Thank you. Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. Thank you very much, Dr. Karekezi. Really, really, really informative and engaging session. I think for my time, I am going to just do a quick whistle-stop conversation around AADA. What is it? What are we trying to do, and how can you get involved? Can I just check with some of the panelists that you can see my screen? If somebody's able to say a yes, that would be helpful. Thank you very much. Okay, so African Actuarial Development Academy, I think this is what we're here for. We wanted it to be Africa-wide. That was very, very important to us. We've talked about the need for actuaries is to grow the quantity and quality of actuaries in Africa. We think it's very important for the growth, not just of the insurance companies and the wider economy in that. So it will be focused on actual profession, developing the pipeline. So we're going to have, when you look at our pillars, you'll see some of them are targeted at short-term success, some of them are targeted at long-term successes. We think that we know that the actual profession requires a lot of investment in time, exam support. I think anybody who's an actuary or a friend of an actuary understands the rigor in which it takes to qualify as one. So what we've done is we've looked at 4 fundamental pillars. That's what we're going to base what we're going to do on. We're going to run in a virtual network. It's going to be, and this allows us to be able to get to all the countries in Africa as much as possible, because we think if we go physical, it's going to be hard. We recognize that even with that, there's going to be some challenges, because some people prefer to learn in a physically by seeing their tutors as opposed to virtually, but we hope that we can overcome some of that. We are going to work in collaboration with actuarial associations. I think it's important to mention that at least most of a number of countries in Africa have actuarial associations. Some are full members of the IAA, some are associates, but we would work with that because that allows us to have support from those who are on ground and able to talk to people who we're trying to reach. We already have the Actuarial Academy of East Africa, and they have graciously said they were going to be they support us in this journey and be our transition. They have been able to do training and mentorship in East Africa, and we are going to try and see how we take that out to the wider Africa and be able to support everybody in growing more actuaries on the continent. So I'll talk a little bit about the 4 pillars. Let me make sure I can change. So the first pillar is professional development. And with that, what we're looking to do is make sure that we have the quality. This is kind of where we focus a lot on quality for those who are already qualified, or those who have been put into roles that are very senior roles very quickly. How do we make sure that you have the right skills to be able to fulfill your role in your job? Dr. Karekezi has spoken about the Young Insurance Professional Program. That has been part of our inspiration for this, where we look at what sort of courses bite-sized courses can we deliver to people to be able to do their job properly. If you're in the West, you would, when you're asked, are you an actuary? The next question more often than not is to say, what type of actuary are you? Are you a life actuary? Are you a general actuary? Are you a pensions actuary? That's a typical question that you get asked. Whereas in Africa, all that's asked is, are you an actuary? Full stop. So when you look at the way in which people are trained, you are more often than not trained to be quite narrow and to pick a specialization area. This pillar will allow you to be able to provide services, or at least train you to be able to provide services a little bit more outside your professional area, because we all know that actuaries are very expensive and scarce, and as such, it's to enable us be able to provide more services to people and be able to grow people behind us. The next pillar is the educational development pillar, and that is looking a little bit long-term to see how do we aid universities, improve the pipeline of people in universities, get them accreditation from those bodies that are accrediting, and upskill the faculty. We recognize that if we are able to improve the quality of the undergraduates coming through, either by way of them getting exemptions directly from their universities being recognized, or just making sure that the quality of them is such that when you go out and you've done an actuarial degree and you decide to sit an exam, be it with SOA, IFOA, ASA, or whoever that might be, that your probability of chance of passing is a lot higher, because we've improved the quality of skilling of the faculty to enable that quality be better. And it also means that immediately once you are employed, once you get into the working environment, what you deliver to your employer is a lot better. And so we're going to be working with that. We're also going to work with some of the corporations to do, so I think there was a question around study policies, to make sure that the path towards learning is a little bit easier. Then another pillar we have is tutorials. And with this, we're looking for some quick wins. I think we think about this as our short term, how do we get more actuaries qualified quicker? And the way to do it is to get them writing exams currently. We're agnostic to which body they write exams in, but we'll probably cluster them together. Get them to tutor them, show them the content of the materials for those who are in school, those who are studying, those who are currently working, to enable them, almost like prepare them to be able to write those exams and improve our pass rate on that. The last pillar is mentorship. This is, and I think for us, I think a profession, whether in Africa or everywhere else, it's always interesting to be able to speak to those who've gone through it and be able to build a community around and be able to get guidance, whether it be one-to-one or group mentoring. And this is enabling us to pair people who are in different stages of their career with people who are earlier on, and be able to share experiences amongst each other. So finally, I'll talk a little bit about how can you support AADA, and I'll cluster them around the pillars that we've talked about. So with the professional development pillar, somebody asked early on, if you're in the West and you don't want to be in the West, you don't want to leave where you are, how can you help? This is some of how you can help. So we're going to need to build content. That means we need people who are going to be able to help us develop those contents, both from a technical aspect and be able to deliver that. So if you're interested in helping us with that, there will be a post event survey. Please do put your name down and see how you can help us with that. We also need to upscale professionals. We need CPDs. We need those sort of things in order to be able to create content. It's one thing for you to have an idea of how you're going to teach people. It's another thing for us to be able to develop the content that allows us to be able to deliver those content to people on the continent. And we recognize that some of the issues that we have are different to some of the issues that they have on the West or in the East. And it will be helpful to get people who are able to tailor that to what's happening. On the educational support pillar, we would be looking for people to train the trainer, be able to help us upskill our faculty members in universities and be able to train them, and not just in the content, but also in how to deliver. If you have access to anything on secondments for this academia, be it in Africa, outside Africa, how can we help expose them to what it looks like to be on the other side so that they understand what their students could look like when they get out of school? And also generally just help with the accreditation of university programs, be that you might want to be an adjunct. We've seen it in some countries already in Africa that have accreditation by other actual bodies, that some of the actuaries in countries have put their hands up to be adjunct lecturers to be able to improve the quality. So we are looking out for people who would want to be part of that process. Again, for the tutorial pillar, we would be looking for somebody who would be looking to do, if you want to act as a tutor, be able to train people, be able to explain the concept or the course content. It's quite vital. We recognize that that in and of itself is a skill. Maybe create some bite-sized contents. Do you have a unique way of explaining things? Are you able to help with the material from the tutor side? Those are all things that are quite important for us to be able to deliver and achieve this objective. And similarly, it goes without saying that if you are going to be a tutor, to be tutored as well, you are part of why AADA is here. Now, on the mentorship side, we are looking for people to participate in our mentorship program. Do you want to be, just raise your hand up to be a mentor. It's immensely valuable and it's rewarding on the other side as well. It gives people the ability to be able to ask you questions and to be able to share ideas and be able to understand your journey and how you can impact on that journey. I've done it a couple of times, and I find them teaching me things as well. So please do tell us if you are interested. Finally, we do put this out there because it's a fact of life. We will need financial support. So if you have any access to anyone who can help fund and finance AADA, please do reach out to us. If it's your company, if you have an NGO, a philanthropy, we know Africa is committed to doing something, but we still need more. We also want you to be an advocate for AADA out there in the community, with your employers, with people you're aware of, making sure that we spread the need for actuaries and the need for AADA to be able to achieve that. We recognize, I don't think I said this, but part of what we're going to try and do in the initial phase is we're going to go in with English and French as our first two languages. We recognize there are more languages on the continent, but initially we are offering will be in English and French. So if there's anybody out there who's very good, who's dual bilingual, please do reach out, because I'm sure it's going to be one of the tools we need is taking resources from one language and converting it to the other language. So if there's anybody who's quite keen or able to help or show us how best we can do that, those are some of the things that we are going to be looking for. So again, as my final word, I will just say, please do fill out the post-event survey, and do say how you might be able to help. Okay, I'm going to pass. I'm going to stop sharing. And I think I am passing back to Mukami for the last wrap-up.
Thank you, Yesidi, and really for everyone and their time. So I know there might be other questions, but please feel free to contact us in case of that, depending on the content that Yesidi shared. This is one out of a series of webinars which we will be holding with our key partners and stakeholders. But really, we want to thank Africari for trailblazing and leading the way on this front in terms of being our hosts and supporting the development of the industry from ground up, and not only for actuaries, but for all the users of actuarial skill. So thank you, Dr. Karekezi, Yvonne, and the whole team for allowing us to take this ambitious plan forward. This and other initiatives seek to change, the lack of actuaries on the continent, as has been addressed in the Fireside chat. And I think the one thing I want to bring out is the fact that AADA is collaborative and cooperative, seeking to add value and fill gaps where other existing infrastructures are not able to do so, whether it's for a limited time or a long time. We really encourage actuaries, fellow actuaries here on the call and wider, and associations to see this as a platform where economies of scale can be achieved, and together we can leapfrog forward. We have ambitious targets to train hundreds of actuarial students in a year in collaboration with the existing specialists and exam partners, building the pipeline of actuarial talent. And as you've seen in the previous presentation, the structure of AADA is set up such that the pipeline can be developed both from a technical perspective and from a practical skills perspective. So again, we really encourage you to fill the post-event survey and to come and join us on this journey as AADA in each of the ways that Yesidi has mentioned, especially in contributing your time and resources, whether monetary, in kind, or otherwise. I also wanted to emphasize that AADA is built on a couple of principles such as sustainability, Pan-Africanism, access, and that's why a lot of things are virtual, training and continuous professional development, collaboration, and also African ownership. So by Africans for Africans. And we really are aligned to a number of the SDG goals. So anyway, for anyone who needs that content, we're happy to provide it. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the International Actuarial Association team for organizing this webinar for us. I'd like to also really thank our advisors. We've had a long journey to get into this point with Yesidi and Yvonne. We've had many conversations. There are a number of key members of the IAA team, Lusani, Mohammed, Ashil, and a number of others I might not be able to all mention who have contributed their thought and will continue to do so. So we want to thank them, and also want to thank our IT, legal, and design professionals who have supported us. So again, please fill in the post-event survey and follow us on the relevant socials once they're up. We look forward to the journey, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Good day to everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Marjorie, for hosting this as well. We appreciate you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Yes, thanks, Marjorie.
Thank you, Marjorie, and thank you, Doctor.